It's Oscar month, so what better time to check out the movies that won Oscars this year? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever won the Oscar for Best Costume Design, and rightly so. The costumes were gorgeous. I am your cinema sidekick. Join me as we investigate a new case. The original Black Panther movie was released in 2018, at the tail end of the Infinity War saga, when the Marvel juggernaut was basically unstoppable. It came at a time when the socio-political landscape was shifting, and it landed as the champion for that movement. It was a smash hit, largely in part due to hugely talented actors and a solid enough story and good timing. It also helped that the movie had a very likable protagonist in Chadwick Boseman as the titular character. He was everything you wanted in a superhero. He was charming, likable, methodical, he had a good moral compass, and the Black Panther was very powerful. With the runaway critical and financial success of the original, and the dismal performance of Phase 4, even with legacy characters like Doctor Strange and Thor, Wakanda Forever was Disney's last hurrah for ending Phase 4 on a high note and picking up some momentum to get Phase 5 off to a better start. This was a movie that I really wanted to like. I genuinely wanted this movie to be good. This movie needed to honor Boseman's legacy. This movie needed to be as culturally significant as the original. This movie needed to succeed because none of the other legacy movies in Phase 4 did. Unfortunately, after watching this movie, all I can say is, what an absolute mess. I could sum up this movie with one word: stupidity. This is an overly long, bloated, messily written shit sandwich bookended by genuinely thoughtful and beautiful tributes to Chadwick Boseman as an actor and to King T'Challa as the Black Panther. The movie starts us off with a genuinely touching scene where we see Shuri scrambling to try and figure out what exactly is wrong with her brother and how to fix it. She's a woman of science, and this is the way that she knows how to fix things. This is the way that she needs to sort this out. Unfortunately, science fails her this time, and she can't manage to save her brother. We then see her and the people of Wakanda mourning the passing of King T'Challa. It's a powerful sequence. It's a poignant sequence. It's genuinely well acted. And damn, it hits hard. It handles a very tough situation in a very respectful way. The Marvel intro sequence is quiet. It shows just footage of Boseman, instead of the usual roster of heroes. This was a very strong start to the movie, and I actually had my hopes up after that intro. But then the rest of the movie happened, and happened tediously. We cut to a scene where all the world leaders are meeting, and Queen Ramonda tells them that they're all bad. Wakanda is the only country that will be looking after the vibranium and no one else, because everyone else is bad. We then go to a scene where a bunch of apparently French soldiers manage to infiltrate and try to steal vibranium from a Wakandan facility in Mali, only to be ambushed by the Dora Milaje. They can apparently dodge bullets with their spears now. They don't kill any of the soldiers, no. They just embarrass them and bring them back to this meeting with the world leaders to shame them and shame the world leaders and show how bad everyone except Wakanda is. So Wakanda is now taking the moral high ground. The same Wakanda that will not stop to help its neighbors. The same Wakanda that has a literal barrier between them and said neighbors. I mean, sure, whatever. I call this the Disney morality. Do as we say, not as we do. Then we jump to an American ship that is searching for vibranium. This is where we get our first introduction of the Atlanteans. Sorry, not the Atlanteans, the Talokanin, or the Talokans. I don't know, I'm just gonna go with Talokans. They then sing the worst song ever, and a bunch of American soldiers kill themselves to stop hearing this song. We also get our first glimpse of Namor. We are then treated to a beautiful sunrise, the Lion King song, and some water drums get banged to let the Queen back into Wakanda. We are told that it is exactly a year after King T'Challa died. We are also treated to zingers like this.
I think that one day artificial intelligence is going to kill us all.
My AI isn't like the movies, mother. It does exactly what I tell it to do.
Really?
I had strings, but now I'm free. There are no strings on me. I've moved beyond your mission. I'm free.
and Shuri and Ramonda take a break to get away from the city and just think on things a bit. But then, while out there, the little camping trip is interrupted by this guy.
My enemies call me Namor.
He then tells them that he needs Wakanda's help because the Americans have detected vibranium in his domain, and that's not cool. He wants them to kill the scientist that created their vibranium detector. He warns them not to tell anyone outside of Wakanda of his people's existence. Okoye and Shuri then travel to the US to meet the scientist, who happens to be a 19-year-old super genius MIT student, Riri, the living MacGuffin of this movie. This is also the part of the movie where they decide that they're now over the whole morning thing and they are now just going to be quirky and make stupid jokes because this is a Disney Marvel movie and you cannot go at least 15 minutes without making stupid jokes. Tone and pacing, be damned. They meet up with Everett Ross, who immediately spills a bunch of confidential information because why not? Anyway, Riri throws some appliances at Okoye and then they go to a garage to go get her things. The FBI surrounds them, and this is the perfect opportunity to show the viewers the new product. I mean, Riri's Ironheart suit. Because why else is she actually in this movie? Shuri decides that Okoye is not the best person to protect her, so she drops a remote thingy on the non-electronic, old-school muscle car to electronically control it via the Wakanda Jarvis, and gets on a dirt bike and rides away, because of course she does. A chase scene ensues and Okoye probably murders some officers. But Riri will not be outdone by Okoye and decides to definitely murder many officers by bringing a drone down on top of them. There's some of that Disney morality again. Remember, they're the good guys. And then the Atlanteans appear at that exact bridge at that exact moment while they are driving over it. The Tolokans throw a bunch of water bombs at them. And at this point, Okoye is the only one conscious. So she's the one that fights the Atlanteans. She apparently kills a bunch of them, but then after a while, they just get up and basically go on with their day. This is super weird and is also never explained. So why are they here? This also never gets explained. Namor was very explicit about them not telling the outside world about their existence, yet here they are in the middle of Boston riding whales and fighting the police. Anyway, Okoye gets her ass handed to her and gets thrown in the water when a water bomb explodes right in front of her. Shuri then wakes up and commands them to take her and Riri to their kingdom and not kill them. And for some reason they comply. The next morning, Valentina de Fontaine, Madame Hydra, shows up at the crime scene to remind us that she still exists, that Disney still has no idea what to do with her, and that the Thunderbolts are still coming. Remember people, next product. Back in Wakanda, Okoye relays what happened to them and gets fired by the Queen. The Queen then decides to visit Nakia in Haiti because she needs her, of all people, to help out with finding Shuri. She's done spy stuff in the past, you know. We also need a way to shoehorn her into this movie, because of spoilers later on. We jump to Talokan, and for some inexplicable reason, Namor decides to tell Shuri, basically a complete stranger to him, his whole life story. And this goes on for a very long time. In short, he's from the 16th century. His people got enslaved by the Spanish conquistadors, and with enslavement also came smallpox. Their leader prayed to their gods for a way out and then dived into a cave and found a bullshit flower. This bullshit flower was given to everyone in the village and it cured them all. His mother was pregnant with him at the time and his dad was nowhere to be found, so that's why he's the special one. The big side effects of the bullshit flower was that they now have to live in the ocean. No more breathing air for you. After telling Shuri his life story, he also decides to show her his underwater city built from vibranium. Talokan. He again reiterates how important it is to kill Riri because of her knowledge, and for some reason Shuri decides that no, he cannot kill her and they need to find another way. This is the same Shuri from the same Wakanda who for the last however many years have not given a single shit about any other country. This is the same Wakanda who will not share their resources with anyone else. This Wakanda now decides they want to focus all their energy on saving this one random girl because she's the MacGuffin, and also Disney morality. Namor also decides to give Shuri his mother's bracelet This also happens to be the exact thing that Shuri will need later to do science. How convenient. And right after that very lengthy exposition dump, Nakia finds Shuri and Riri. They escape, but on the way out, she kills two Talokans, and this is a problem. The Talokans, attack Wakanda, and in the process, Namor kills the queen with those same water bombs that just knocked Okoye into the water. At this point, Namor just decides to stop the attack and say, "Nah, we'll be back in a week." Shuri is mad as hell and decides that she needs to recreate the heart-shaped flower that they haven't been able to recreate up to now immediately, because she needs to destroy Namor. Good old revenge. And it works. Almost immediately. She's also a super genius, don't you know? She's also now Black Panther. 2 full hours into the movie. And with that,
Revenge Master Plan activated.
And what is that master plan, you ask? They're gonna go to the ocean, riding a big submarine that shoots sonic waves straight down, and fight the ocean dwellers there, where they are at their strongest. And if you think this genius plan was just a one-parter, you're wrong. The second part involves them catching Namor with one of their planes and then drying him out with a very large space heater.
Cue the preparation montage.
What they didn't foresee with this master plan, though, was that the ocean dwellers would be strong in the ocean, could come at them from different angles than from just straight below them, and that locking Namor in a plane that isn't reinforced in any way would not hold up to him or his vibranium spear. Shocking. I know. Alas, it's the third act in a Marvel movie, so a big CGI battle has to happen. And it does. And lucky for us, everyone is now Iron Man. Okoye and Aneka have Iron Man suits, and Riri has her Ironheart suit. It looks like some people die, but no blood and no actual deaths are seen. It might be one of the saddest and most pathetic third act CGI fights of any Disney Marvel movie. You know you are scraping the bottom of the barrel when you are copying scenes from the Matt Damon The Great Wall movie. And that movie did it better. Black Panther throws a few Talokans around and then flies away to beat up Namor. They have a terribly unconvincing fight, and then she gets impaled. As in, straight through her body, probably shattering a spinal column and taking out organs in the process, impaled. This same sort of impalement was the death of Killmonger. But fret not, dear viewer. She is almost immediately fine. And as she stands over Namor, ready to kill him, she realizes that they're actually quite the same, and that they're both just looking out for their people. And then Queen Ramonda appears to her and tells her to show him who she really is. She then offers Namor a truce, who, under the threat of death, obviously accepts. Duh. They fly back to the submarine and are now besties. Shuri then buggers off to Haiti to properly mourn her brother and finds out he had a son with Nakia.
Ogubani.
My name is Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa.
And that his legacy will live on. The end. What a mess. As I was watching this movie, I kept thinking to myself how cheap and small and incomplete everything felt. This did not feel like a movie with a $200+ million budget. Wakanda apparently only has about 2 streets and M'Baku's place, and everything in the movie happens in those locations. It's not a city as much as it is a city block or 2. The initial attack on Wakanda probably involved only about 20 to 30 people. I mean, come on. The big fight set pieces felt rushed and lacking. This was especially true for the final battle, where you have the 2 most, in quotes, powerful nations in the world facing off, and the battle consists of maybe 50 to 75 people, a single submarine, and 2 to 3 planes. That's it. It felt as though with all of these, the VFX crews were forced to stop halfway through and just get it finished. Because Disney has products to market and they can't wait longer for this to happen. Final product be damned. Product consumption, first and foremost. People talk about Marvel fatigue. I bet that nowhere is that sentiment stronger than with the VFX houses that have to work with Disney. Speaking of fatigue, the writing for this movie is lazy and subpar. Apparently the writers aren't aware that there are other movies in the MCU. So let's talk a bit about that stupidity I mentioned earlier. In this movie, Namor wants the Wakandans to bring Riri to him because it's their fault that the world is now looking for vibranium. Before T'Challa opened his big mouth, the world was blissfully unaware. Except for the fact that we see vibranium mentioned, seen, and used as far back as Captain America the First Avenger.
Vibranium is stronger than steel and a third the weight. It's completely vibration absorbent.
That means people were aware for more than 80 years by this point. You might also remember a small little movie called Avengers Age of Ultron,
The vibranium field, that's what's keeping the rock together.
where Ultron used enough vibranium to move a whole fucking mountain. Even Vision is made from vibranium.
It's beautiful. The vibranium atoms aren't just compatible with the tissue cells, they're binding them.
Claw had stolen a lot of vibranium from Wakanda and had been trafficking that for quite a while. Namor also thinks he handled the Americans from that one vessel that was looking for vibranium in their domain. Ever heard of GPS coordinates, satellite tracking? You think that vessel wasn't being monitored and no one called in when they found vibranium? That's most likely a government vessel. Of course it's being monitored. Of course they knew exactly where that thing stopped and exactly where everyone died. And do you really think that countries like the US wouldn't be working on multiple other versions of the vibranium detectors? The thing to detect the most valuable metal on Earth? Have people really changed that much? You've heard of the gold and diamond rushes, right? Also, Tony could already detect vibranium in Age of Ultron with his suit.
What's the vibranium for? Have you been juicing? A little vibranium cocktail?
There's the rest of the vibranium. Function, still unclear.
So I guess there's that. And the Riri character, who is completely redundant in this movie. So, you've got a super genius young woman who is incredibly talented and can fabricate the craziest thing and sciences like a boss. I was describing Shuri, but sure, I guess that fits Riri too. I guess the biggest shock is probably that Riri didn't end up being the villain because she had the exact same powers as Shuri. You know, typical Marvel formula. And then Namor. Probably one of the worst villains in MCU history. Somehow he knew about Riri and everything that the Wakandans did, but didn't bother to go and kill her himself. He then warns them about telling anyone about their presence, and about 10 minutes later in the movie, his team is riding whales in Boston. He genuinely thinks that if Riri is killed, the world would just stop looking for vibranium, and even decides to show and tell literally everything about him and his people to Shuri, a complete stranger, making them completely vulnerable when she flees eventually. He decides to attack those 2 blocks in Wakanda and ends up killing the queen. And right after that, he just stops and goes home, giving the Wakandans time to regroup. Why? Why would you be that stupid? Luckily, the Wakandans are as stupid as him, and their master plan is one of the worst plans ever conceived. And finally, let's talk about the Black Panther. I'm just gonna say it. Shuri was an awful choice for taking up the reins. Her motivations were all wrong, and she never was supposed to be the Black Panther. It was obvious. The fact that Letitia Wright makes a ruler look morbidly obese doesn't help either. Even more so in the Black Panther suit. Jesus man, it looks like if you push her too hard you'd break something. If you think they took away her Black Panther powers and she'd have to physically fight someone like M'Baku, like T'Challa had to do in the original movie to win back his Black Panther powers, you really think she'd be able to win against someone like that? You know who would have been a better option? Okoye. She's been a warrior all her life and has trained for something like this, and she has the discipline to pull it off. She also at least looks physically much more like a warrior. Ramonda would have been way better too. Angela Bassett was in incredible shape, and she too knows the burden of leadership. Even Nakia would have been better, since she also has warrior instincts and now maternal ones too. The acting in the movie overall was very solid. Angela Bassett was definitely the standout and basically carried this movie with her heavy lifting. No wonder her shoulders are so ripped. Letitia Wright was way less abrasive and annoying in this movie than she was in her previous outings, and that really helped her character a lot. It just felt like she had matured quite a bit. Dominique Thorne as Riri was okay, but she was such a pointless character in this movie. And honestly, they wasted Danai Gurira, Winston Duke and Lupita Nyong'o. They are all better thespians than what they were given to work with. Tenoch Huerta, unfortunately, was awful. As the main villain of this movie, he just never felt convincing. His acting wasn't great, he never felt like he was powerful, he never felt imposing, he never felt conniving, he never felt powerful, and he never felt like a genuine threat to Wakanda, or to any other country for that matter. And that is a big problem with your main villain. To a degree, I understand what they were trying to do with the fact that they ended up with the truce and that he wasn't really that evil, so he shouldn't have been that imposing or that powerful or that big of a threat. I get it. Ultimately, like I said, this movie started off strong and it ended sincerely. But what happened between those two bookends was just an awful, awful time. A bloated, messy, preachy, self-important movie. I also cannot help but wonder how much Disney influence was in that script and in the direction. This movie made me think back to the Batman v Superman movie, where they tried to introduce too many characters in too short a time and it absolutely backfired on them. And I feel the same happened with this movie. Disney just seems to want to drive new product after new product after new product, and it's just too much. This movie, was clearly part of Disney's quantity over quality push. And hopefully that stops soon. With Boseman's death, it's clear that extensive rewrites happened with the script. What it actually needed was a complete from the ground up rewrite, not the patch job that we got. This is a movie that sorely needed Boseman, that needed the real Black Panther.